The Imperial soldiers look down at the frontier tribe and mock their attempt to fight back.
A commander in red armor tells the kneeling prisoners to be thankful for the Empire's mercy.
The main character lies beaten on the ground while being called a barbarian.
A god and a winged assistant apologize to the man for an error they made.
The man is shown as a gray silhouette and questions if he is actually dead.
The god points out that the man survived a traffic accident, but was brought to the afterlife too early.
The old man expresses regret that the hero died so young and as a virgin. The deities offer to send the man back to his former life.
A black and white panel shows the god explaining that the man's body has already been cremated.
The protagonist realizes he has no life to return to and begins to panic. The god raises his hand and explains that they have an emergency solution for these specific cases.
He informs the hero that returning to Earth is impossible, but he can reincarnate him into another world instead.
The deity adds a catch, explaining that the hero will have to take over the body of someone who recently died.
The god apologizes for the mix-up and promises that they will take full responsibility for preserving his new life. The protagonist stares in silence, processing the reality of being reincarnated into a different world.
He looks back at his mediocre past life and realizes that since his funeral already happened, there is nothing left for him on Earth.
The hero eventually agrees to the offer, making the god extremely happy and relieved.
He then asks about the specific skills he will receive, which catches the god off guard as he begins to think.
The angel girl suddenly interrupts with an intense expression, volunteering to be his guide for the upcoming adventure.
She starts randomly suggesting powerful abilities like a body made of steel and the functions of a modern smartphone.
The god hears a bell and abruptly ends the conversation, explaining that his workday has officially finished.
The god and Chochoi give a thumbs up, promising that the angel will be the one to choose his special skills.
The two deities wave goodbye and wish him a bon voyage as the hero is sent away to his new reality.
The hero wakes up in a bed of straw, heavily bandaged and covered in wounds as his second life begins.
A large man with a mustache shouts the name Gaia in shock, while the hero realizes this must be his new name.
Gaia clutches his bandaged head in intense pain, as information about the new world begins to flood his consciousness.
The protagonist looks at the worried man and identifies him as Uncle Athos through his new memories.
Uncle Athos cries with relief that Gaia is awake, though he sadly mentions that his brother and sister are gone.
Looking at his own hand, the hero realizes he truly did inhabit the body of someone who had just died.
As Uncle Athos continues to weep, the hero wonders if it is right for him to take over the life of someone so clearly loved.
Gaia notices his wounds closing right before his eyes, and realizes he cannot easily explain this rapid healing to his uncle.
Uncle Athos asks if the hero is able to move yet, and explains that they have somewhere they need to go immediately.
Through the earlier information stream, Gaia discovers he is the next in line for the Bluemont tribe, which is currently fighting the Vafancro Empire.
Athos tells another tribesman that Gaia is doing well, while the man expresses shock that his injuries have already healed.
Uncle Athos decides that he and Gaia will go to inquire about an apology for the recent misconduct they endured.
A narrative panel explains the history of when the Bluemonts first rebelled against the tyranny of the Empire.
Athos clenches his fists in frustration, finding it hard to believe he must offer an apology to the Emperor.
A caption stating "they lost" appears over an image of Emperor Goldius III sitting on his throne, surrounded by guards.
Emperor Goldius III of the Veraticorus Empire looks down and asks if the visitors have anything to say for themselves. Athos bows deeply before the emperor and claims the rebellion was the sole decision of the previous chief, begging for magnanimity for the tribe.
The blonde imperial prince tells the boy to raise his head before suddenly kicking him directly in the face.
The prince mocks the tribesmen and laughs while stating they are worth less than livestock, even though they know how to beg prettily.
Uncle Athos begs the crown prince to stop, while the emperor finally intervenes and tells his son Muno that he has done enough.
Emperor Goldius III explains that he does not want to spill blood unnecessarily, but demands that the Bluemont tribe offer their blood to the Empire until the last drop.
Athos bows his head and thanks the Emperor for his mercy, while an Imperial soldier tells him he had better know his place.
As they leave the Imperial grounds, Athos apologizes to the hero for calling his own brother a villain just to satisfy the Emperor.
Gaia looks down in silence as he thinks about his mother and father, while the Imperial slur for his people echoes in his mind.
A flashback shows Gaia as a child walking with his father, who explains that Imperial citizens call them barbars because they cannot understand their native language.
The father explains that the Empire considers everyone, including elves and lizard folk, to be nothing more than barbars, while the young hero calls them stupid.
The father laughs and agrees with his son,
stating that their own traditions and ways are in no way inferior to those of the Empire.
The flashback concludes with Gaia's father sharing his dream of escaping the Empire and building a new home for their people.
Back in the present, Uncle Athos asks if the hero is in pain, and Gaia sharply shouts that he is okay despite his bandages.
The hero reflects on the slaughter of his family and questions why they were treated like animals just for being labeled as barbars.
A comparison to his past life on Earth appears as the hero realizes he has never felt such a raw and powerful sense of hatred before.
Gaia declares that he will never forgive the Empire for their crimes, and Athos acknowledges the misery of being weak.
The two men stand together and resolve to become strong enough to ensure they are never humiliated again.
Later, Athos meets with the rest of the tribe members who look completely stunned by a suggestion he has put forward.
The men openly question if Athos is actually serious about appointing Gaia as the next chief of their people.
Athos confirms his stance, while the other warriors argue that he should lead because Gaia is still far too young. Athos insists that his support lies with Gaia and asks the tribe to back him, promising to guide the new chief through his shortcomings. The tribe members finally agree to Athos's proposal, acknowledging his strong support for Gaia's leadership. Gaia approaches his uncle in private and asks if he is truly the right person to lead the tribe as their new chief.
While Athos laughs at the question, the hero admits that he lacks confidence because everything in this new world is completely foreign to him.
Athos looks at the boy and reminds him that his father, Noel, was an incredibly brave and valiant man.
A memory appears of Noel carrying a young Gia on his shoulders, describing him as an idealist who cared deeply about the future of the Bluemont people.
Athos acknowledges that Gaia is very young and different from his brother, yet he asks for forgiveness for placing such a heavy burden on him. The uncle looks directly at the protagonist and tells him that he has decided to place all his hopes for the tribe's future on Gaia. As he leaves the building, Gaia reflects on how the reckless gods sent him to a difficult place, though his perspective is beginning to shift.
Clenching his fist, the hero decides to meet the expectations placed upon him and vows to work his way up from the very bottom.
Gaia looks out at the night sky and swears that he will eventually crush the empire that treats his people as uncivilized barbars.
Gaia points his finger and a glowing screen labeled Smartphone suddenly materializes in front of him.
He touches the screen to confirm it is solid and realizes it is one of the apology abilities granted by the god.
The interface displays complex data, including a detailed map and specific information about local plants and animals.
Gaia acknowledges that having access to accurate maps in this world is an exceptional and rare advantage.
While browsing a people category on the screen, Gaia finds a profile for Uncle Athos just as the man speaks to him. Athos is shown carrying a large stack of wood and asks Gaia to help repair the wall destroyed by the Imperials.
The hero realizes that since he is the only one who can see the screen, he must be careful not to look like he is staring at thin air.
Uncle Athos and another man discuss the construction progress and note that the village wall will be finished shortly.
The tribesmen explain that the Empire destroyed their food stores, and they are now facing a severe wheat shortage. Gaia learns that his tribe lives on poor land, and they are forced to use currency to buy essential goods from the outside world. The narrator explains that most land capable of growing wheat belongs to the Empire, which forces tribes to trade with imperial currency.
Gaia reflects on the frustrating contradiction of relying on the Empire for resources while simultaneously planning their destruction.
While checking his digital map, the hero notices a marker for a specific boulder that is identified as a rock salt mineral vein.
Gaia is surprised to find a rock salt vein and realizes that the entire region must have been covered by an ocean in the distant past.
The hero considers the high market value of salt and notes that extracting it from seawater is much more difficult than mining.
Gaia contemplates whether mining salt could become a major industry for the Bluemont tribe, if the deposit proves stable enough.
After seeing that the vein is located very close to his village, the protagonist decides to go and investigate the area personally.
While searching the woods, Gaia suddenly understands why the vein remained undiscovered when he is confronted by a massive bear.
The hero uses his smartphone to identify the creature as a bloody bear and prepares his sword after learning its danger level is low. Gaia leaps into action and strikes the bear with his blade, but the animal quickly counterattacks with a powerful claw swipe.
Uncle Athos is completely shocked to learn that Gea went into the territory of the bloody bear.
A woman explains that the bear's hide is too tough for swords to penetrate, while Gaia thinks about how his healing ability saved him.
Athos asks Gea why he would go to such a dangerous place alone. Gea realizes he has to give up on the rock salt for now because he cannot kill the bear with his current weapon. The protagonist explains that he went searching for something useful because he knows the village needs money.
Gea admits that he wants to be more than just a figurehead chief and actually contribute to the village.
The other tribe members are surprised to hear this because Gaia used to only care about his personal training.
Uncle Athos mentions that the tribe already has an established industry to handle their financial problems.
A large image of a sword sheath confirms that the tribe's main industry is mercenary work.
The tribe begins preparing their gear for a mission against the Algiers kingdom, while acknowledging the irony of working for the Empire.
The tribesmen scramble to find their gear and shout that there are not enough weapons for everyone to go into battle.
A man announces that a delivery has arrived and reminds the tribe that battle is their primary time to earn.
A crate is opened to reveal a collection of brand new swords and equipment to the excitement of the warriors.
Gea is stunned by the high-quality gear and asks Uncle Athos how the village could possibly afford so many new weapons.
Athos explains that their imperial employer provided an advance payment and promised to supply food during the upcoming conflict.
Gea admits he fully expected the Empire to simply use them up and is surprised to receive such proper treatment and payment.
A narrative panel explains that while Emperor Goldius III gains land through war, he faces a perpetual shortage of good soldiers.
Athos points out that while the tribe lost to the Empire, their value as mercenaries gives them significant leverage in negotiations.
The hero praises his uncle for being amazing, which causes the older man to laugh and say he is turning red in the face.
A warrior tells Gea to pick out a new weapon since his previous sword was damaged during his encounter with the bloody bear.
Gea picks up one of the new swords to examine it while a tribesman tells him he has made a good choice. As the hero looks closely at the blade, he is surprised to realize that the weapons provided by the Empire are made of copper or bronze.
An informational panel explains that bronze is a rust-resistant alloy of copper and tin that is easy to forge and polishes up nicely.
Despite its benefits, Gea reflects on how bronze is significantly inferior to iron when used for high-quality combat weapons.
The hero observes that Imperial soldiers clearly use iron equipment, meaning it is traded in the world but not available to his tribe.
He concludes that his failure to pierce the bloody bear's hide was a weapon quality issue, and acknowledges that iron is simply too expensive for them.
Gea asks Athos if they could buy iron weapons if they had more money, but his uncle interrupts with a suggestion about the coming war. Athos explains that the scale of the conflict is bigger than he thought, and suggests they should call neighboring tribes for help. Warriors from the Anglo, Bondar, and Great Lizard tribes arrive at the village, all motivated by the promise of earning currency. Athos tells Gea that the Blumont tribe will be taking the lead and instructs him to greet the gathered allies personally.
Gea steps forward to address the gathered warriors and introduces himself as the chief of the Blumont tribe. He explains that they have been ordered by the Empire to march to war and formally asks the neighboring tribes for their cooperation.
The warriors from the allied tribes respond with mixed expressions, showing a combination of hesitation and silent observation.
Athos leans in to whisper advice to the hero regarding the true motivations and temperaments of the tribal mercenaries.
Gea quickly realizes that these tribes have no real loyalty to the Empire and are purely motivated by the promised rewards.
Shifting his strategy, the protagonist begins to emphasize the high amount of loot and payment they can expect from the mission.
The atmosphere among the warriors becomes noticeably more enthusiastic as they discuss the potential for personal wealth.
Gaia secretly activates his smartphone to gather intelligence on the specific background and traits of the neighboring tribal leaders.
A detailed profile of one of the leaders appears on the digital screen, highlighting their specific history and combat style. The hero analyzes the provided data to determine the most effective way to lead and unite the diverse groups under his authority.
Gea concludes his speech by asserting that the Blumont tribe will lead the expedition for the mutual benefit of every tribe involved.
A prominent leader from one of the neighboring tribes steps forward to openly question if someone so young can handle such a heavy responsibility.
The hero remains composed and addresses the skepticism by highlighting the specific strategic and financial advantages they hold under his command. Athos watches the interaction from the side and feels a sense of pride seeing how much his nephew has matured as a leader.
While the tribal leaders continue to talk,
Gaia secretly checks his smartphone for a tactical update on the terrain and potential enemy positions.
The digital interface displays a clear route through the mountains that will allow the mercenary force to avoid detection by Imperial scouts.
Satisfied with the data, Gaia gives the final signal for the combined tribal forces to begin packing their supplies for the march.
Warriors from the different groups start to mingle and exchange gear, marking the first real steps toward building a functional military alliance.
Gaia takes a quiet moment to reflect on his father's lessons about the weight of leadership and the duty to protect one's people.
The combined mercenary army finally departs from the village and begins its journey toward the borders of the Algiers kingdom.
The mercenary army continues its trek through the dense forest, maintaining a steady pace toward the border.
Gaia walks at the front of the column while secretly monitoring the digital map on his smartphone for any tactical updates.
The device suddenly emits a subtle vibration and displays a red warning signal on the information terminal.
A detailed scan of the immediate surroundings reveals several enemy signatures hidden in the thick brush ahead.
Gaia immediately raises his hand to signal a full halt, causing the entire column of tribal warriors to stop in their tracks.
Uncle Athos and the other leaders look at the young chief with confusion, wondering why he has suddenly stopped the march.
The hero quickly explains that a group of enemy scouts is lying in wait just a few hundred yards away from their position.
Taking the warning seriously, the tribal warriors silently disperse into the shadows of the trees to prepare a counter-ambush.
A small squad of scouts from the Algiers kingdom emerges from the thicket, completely unaware that they are already surrounded. Gaia gives the final order to strike, and the Bluemont warriors leap from their hiding places to initiate a surprise attack.
The Bluemont warriors clash with the Algiers Kingdom scouts, taking full advantage of the element of surprise during the attack.
Gaia joins the front lines and successfully parries an incoming strike from a surprised enemy soldier with his bronze sword.
The enemy scout commander looks around in panic as he realizes his planned ambush has been completely turned against his squad.
Warriors from the Great Lizard tribe use their immense physical strength to easily shatter the enemy's defensive formation.
Gaia notices a hidden movement in his peripheral vision and narrowly dodges a lethal strike from an enemy hiding in the trees.
The surviving Algiers scouts attempt to break rank and flee into the dense forest to avoid being captured.
Uncle Athos quickly intercepts the retreating soldiers and ensures that none of the scouts escape to report their position.
The brief but intense skirmish comes to an end as the mercenary force secures the perimeter and accounts for their allies.
Gaia and the other tribal leaders gather to inspect the high-quality equipment and supplies left behind by the defeated enemy.
While searching the enemy commander, the hero finds a leather-bound map that reveals the location of a major Algiers Kingdom military base.
Gaia shows the captured leather-bound map to Uncle Athos and the other tribal leaders to discuss their next strategic move.
The hero quietly activates his smartphone to cross-reference the handwritten paper map with his high-resolution digital data.
A detailed topographic view of the Algiers Kingdom military base appears on the glowing screen, revealing its exact layout and defenses.
Gaia points to a specific mountain path on the digital display and proposes a surprise night raid to catch the enemy off guard.
The tribal leaders examine the hero's suggested plan with focused expressions and begin to discuss the logistics of the attack.
Under the cover of total darkness, the combined mercenary force begins its silent approach toward the enemy's fortified position.
A scout from the Bluemont tribe signals the rest of the army that they have successfully reached the outer perimeter of the base.
Torches and guard patrols are visible along the base's wooden walls, as the enemy remains completely unaware of the approaching army.
Gaia gives final tactical instructions to the leaders of each tribe to ensure they coordinate their movements during the strike.
The warriors draw their weapons and prepare to launch the first phase of the night infiltration into the Algiers military base.
Gaia and the Bluemont warriors move silently through the dark enemy encampment to locate their primary strategic objectives.
The hero uses the night vision mode on his smartphone to pinpoint the exact positions of every sentry patrolling the inner walls.
A Bluemont scout successfully neutralizes a lone guard near the main gate without alerting the rest of the military base.
The combined mercenary force eventually reaches the large wooden storehouse where the Algiers Kingdom keeps its food and military supplies.
Gaia orders several warriors to begin pouring flammable oil over the supply crates to prepare for a massive diversionary fire.
Suddenly, a loud iron bell rings out across the base as the enemy soldiers finally realize they are being infiltrated.
The Algiers Kingdom soldiers scramble out of their tents in a state of total panic, while the mercenary force maintains a tight combat formation.
Gaia leads his men into a fierce skirmish against
against a group of elite guards who are desperately trying to protect the commander's quarters.
The warriors from the Great Lizard tribe use their massive physical strength to smash through the enemy's wooden defensive barricades.
Thick black smoke begins to billow into the night sky as the primary supply storehouse is successfully set ablaze by the mercenaries.
The fires at the supply storehouse spread rapidly to the surrounding tents, creating widespread confusion among the Algiers Kingdom troops.
Amidst the chaos, a high-ranking enemy knight in ornate silver armor emerges and begins shouting orders to organize a defensive line.
Gaia spots the enemy commander and decides to confront him directly to prevent the Algiers soldiers from regrouping.
The Silver Knight looks down at the hero with contempt, mocking the idea of a young boy leading a tribal mercenary raid.
Gaia ignores the insults and tightens his grip on his sword while shifting into a focused combat stance to prepare for the duel.
The commander launches a powerful thrust with his heavy lance, causing a shockwave that cracks the wooden boards beneath Gaia's feet.
Showing incredible reflexes, the protagonist narrowly avoids the lethal strike and manages to land a small grazing cut on the knight's arm.
While maintaining his distance, Gaia uses the tactical interface on his smartphone to scan the enemy commander's current combat stats.
A detailed analysis screen appears on the digital display, identifying a critical flaw in the heavy armor around the knight's left shoulder.
Gaia lunges forward to exploit the opening, aiming his bronze blade directly at the exposed gap in the Silver Knight's defenses.